Hello, once again I'm working on the Flathead engine. Now I don't know if you can see, but I've just machined that valve seat there using a vintage Buma tool, and I machined this one the other day. This one has gone deeper than it needed to because it was the first one I did, and what I didn't realise that the guide thing that I was using was not centered up properly. So I've made a new one, and this is it here. Ooh. And this is it. I made this on the lathe out of a piece of steel shaft, very rusty piece of steel shaft. That's the bar it was cut from. Lovely, that'll go in nice now. And this, nice metal was on the inside of it. This part is from the original Buma valve seat tool, and I made this part, and I drilled and reamed it 3/8. This is a 3/8 size guide that goes through, and there's a nut up the inside that holds it on. And I've just done that one, and I was going to do that one because that one is probably the worst one on the engine. The others actually on this side aren't too bad. Full disclosure, when I did that one wrong, I then continued and managed to do 7 of these wrong. So all of these. So all of these have gone deeper than they needed to because I've just corrected them using that tool. And that one on the end there I've just done that one using the tool, but I hadn't done it wrong in the first place, so it's quite a lot nicer. So whether them are too deep or not, I don't know. So the idea is, of course, anybody that knows about this sort of thing, is that it locates not only the valve guide bore, but on the lifter bore as well. And it goes quite tight. You have to get it far enough down, then you can put this, put the standard horseshoe clip on. That's why it's got a groove in it. Then you can kind of pull it up, seat that, and because I haven't made provision for it, what I do, I put a piece of cloth on it and put a pair of grips on it to stop it turning. Obviously what it ideally needs is to go in the milling machine and put a couple of flats on it, but that will do for now. Then what you have to do, you take it that's centralised. What you do, you then you can bolt this bracing piece down, which is preset to this right angle because I've just used it on this one here. I don't leave this mega tight because I don't want it to pull it off centre. So you kind of just get it nicely kind of centered up. You don't want it to be pulling everything as it tightens up. So that's nice and tight. This is free to turn. Can you see the tool down there? Look. The tool is clear of the job. So you have to wind this nut down. Bear in mind, I'm not an expert in using this. Basically, I've done 8, 9, 10. That's it. And it's the first time I've ever used the tool with no guidance and no instruction. So once again, it's Mart teaching himself. So what I've been doing is putting this old-fashioned spanner wrench on the nut like that, and just winding it down with the tool. So that winds it down. It's going closer and closer, and in the end it starts to touch like that. And then when you feel like it's got a bit of a cut on, you stop winding the nut and you turn it by hand. And now I'll give it a bit more now because it's only took a tiny little skim. Give it another flat. Oh, that's quite a heavy cut now. Oh, come on. Half a flat is, I wouldn't have given it that much if I don't know. But the last one I did, it took quite a few goes to get it to start. That's not bad actually. That's going round a fair bit of the diameter. So I'll go half a flat now. This one might not clean up because it's quite deeply pitted. Half a flat. You can wind these knobs in and it should turn the nut, but this isn't the standard nut. And the standard nut was a little bit worn, so it wasn't working anyway. So I use this one that I can put a wrench on. It's a wheel nut, would you believe? Okay, I can see a big pit down the bottom of this seat, so I've got to go until that disappears really. This was the worst one in the block, and you can see it's one of the ones that had to have a liner, so that all that horrible whatever it was, you know, a lot of water or something came in down this port. I mean, I've had to go so far in on the other type, it might be that if I go that far in, this one will clear up. Nothing is ideal, is it? You're moving the valve back, you've got to shorten the valve. You're losing compression because of you've moved the valve back. Half a flat. It's quite satisfying, to be honest. And this is a really nice quality tool. I think it was something like over £30 in the 1930s. You know, she's a lot of money. I think it's 1930s, you know. The big pit that was down at the bottom has gone, but there's a few. I can just see a bit of shadowing sort of top right. and generally at the top. I'll just keep going till it clears up. It's a 1/2 inch 20 thread, so every one turn of that nut is 50 thou. So one flat is approximately 8 thou. So half a flat is like 4 thou. So putting it half a flat, you're putting 4 thou on the cut. Whoa. But it's a lot better now than it was before I modified it. I'm thinking, how good does this need to be? I'll give it one more flat and call it good at that. Half a flat rather. There is a little bit of shading on the surface. I think that's alright, you know, I think that'll be alright. And it isn't as deep as the ones on the other side. I daren't show you those. I mean, you know, we ought to have new guides, but let's just see what we need to do to make it run, even if imperfect. Okay, that's it, that's done. I'll take it out and show you. Wind the nut off. There's like a tension device on the end. This thing here, it keeps the tension on it. You have to slacken this. It needs to go down to get the horseshoe clip out, so they've got plenty of clearance there on the cutter. There. And then up. You can't pull up on that handle because it comes off. Wow, there you go. It shows, look, that bore wasn't clean, but I'm okay with that because it makes it tighter. So there you go, there's one done. And that was the worst one on there. You can see some pitting on it still, but I'm hoping to sort of ease the inside edge away and narrow the seats down. I'll go in again and do another cut and kind of scallop them out a bit. Look, this isn't going to be a 3-angle valve job, you know what I mean? This is me just trying to do something that you can imagine people trying to do, you know, maybe during the war or something, just to keep it rolling. Take this out, off. This is a French head bolt, and it says Caro 12.0 UNC. So that's a good quality bolt, I'd say. You know, military, innit? They're not going to be rubbish. That's pretty good, actually. Just take a tiny little cut. Well, it's cut 360 degrees, so I'll say that's good. You know, what I might do is set it up with a cutter to kind of radius them down. I think that's okay. That'll be a whole another chapter though. Okay, let's do a quick roundup of those one. I'm going to leave the tool in place there in case I can change the tool and fit a different tool and kind of scallop it in, blend the radius in on the inside edge. That one's okay. That one's alright. They've still got the tiniest shadow there, but you know, blimey. That one's a bit shiny. I think that one was quite bad. I'm not sure. I'll have to look. That one's alright now, I think. This was one of the worst ones on the engine. You can still see some hints there. Forgive my gloved hand. That one's alright. Again, something there, isn't there? But as long as there's a nice seat, and I will try and rig something up to take some more cuts, but I might leave it at that now because they're all okay. But these are very wide on this side because I cocked them up, basically. I don't mind admitting to my mistakes. But I'm not going to change them. I'm just going to grind the valves to suit. I think I'll be more likely to make a mess of it if I try and change them than I will if I just try and use them as is. Okay. Right then. I'm going to call it good at that then. I'm going to go and have a break, have something to eat. I've been messing about with this, the Buma valve seat cutter, and I've made a cutter with a shallow angle there and put it into the holder. And what I've just been doing is putting a shallow cut in on the inside of the seats, like that there. That's not very good there, but just a shallow cut on the inside of the seats to narrow up the seat. So I'm just going to do these last four, so I thought I'd turn the camera on. For this job, which is a non-functional cut. Just the guide on its own has been working okay. For the actual valve seat, I used the heavy clamping thing, and I imagine if you were cutting the block to suit a new valve seat, you would use that as well. But for this job, which is just a clearance in effect, just the thing on its own seems to be working okay. Put a bit of extra light on it. I'm only just putting a little chamfer on and not really taking a lot of material off. Get some light on it. These seats have all ended up wider than I wanted because I cut them all wrong. I have my calipers set to the diameter that I wanted to make this cut at. Yeah, I don't want to go too big. Just a little chamfer. It's what they call it, a three-angle valve job, don't they? 30 at the top, 45 in the middle, and then 70 or 75, is it, down? I haven't measured that angle. I just cut it, It would be interesting, wouldn't it, to see if you could form a tool to cut the bowls on the French blocks, because the bowls aren't as clearanced as these. They're kind of the bowls are restrictive. You have to do a lot of grinding on them. That'll do. Don't need much, just a little, just a bit of a token gesture, really. That's the tool. Just a simple bit of high-speed steel. To be honest, that was the only piece of 1/4 inch I'd got. But I'm really impressed with this old tool, this cutter. It works remarkably well, and it's nice and quiet. It doesn't make a lot of noise, Considering how bad some of these seats were, it's remarkable to get them anywhere near a usable condition. Once again, vintage engine, vintage tools, great, isn't it? Love it. Okay, yep, that's it, that's the last one. That's good. That's brilliant, isn't it, that guide? Really, really transformed doing this job, to be honest. What you can see here is that I've got all the valves in place, both sides. So there's all the valves, and what I've done, I've numbered them all so I don't get them mixed up. And you can see in there all the guides have little O-rings on them to keep them together with the valve. Some of these were quite badly pitted, but I just cut them. So a lot of these valves are sitting down a bit from where they would ideally be, but this is just a sort of let's repair it type fix. What I then did was to put each of the valves in the lathe, and I just cleaned up the face. Now, I didn't do it with a cutting tool, I just did it with a file and some abrasive paper, and just used the valve as a guide, got the feel of it, and just cleaned them up. I did try rigging up a grinding thing, but to be honest, I think it was better to do it like that, because the valve just in a normal 3-jaw chuck will always run out just a couple of thou. So it's best to just do it with paper so that you can take account of that couple of thou without trying to recenter it. And that was a good thing to do because it did work very well, and it showed up a few things, and I'll tell you about that in just a sec. But anyway, what I then went on to do was to lap all of these valves in. So all of the valves have been lapped. You can see the dull area on the valve where it's been lapped, and you can see the seat looks dull as well, so that's good. What it showed me here in my little scrap tray, all of these valves are scrap for various reasons. Look, I've written on there, bent. When I put it in the lathe and span it, as I touched onto the surface, you could feel it, pushing the file up and down. That one there, look, bent. So I've written on it, so I don't keep picking it up and trying to use it again. This one's got pits written on it because it's quite heavily pitted. Don't know how close this camera can focus, because it's quite heavily pitted, so I didn't try cleaning that one. Bent. It was only very slight, you couldn't really see it, but when I was trying to clean it, you could just feel it skittering like that, jittering, so that's good. Right, this is the setup on the lathe. This is that one that's got the pits on it, but I'll just use it as a demo. Just a bit of sanding paper, You have to be a bit careful, make sure you got no loose sleeves or anything. You have to be not a bit careful, you have to be very careful. Hopefully you can just see down here. And you can feel when it's on the flat. can see all the pits on that, but you can imagine if that wasn't pitted, it'd actually have a very nice surface now. It's a bit awkward to get the angle that you needed to see that. Can you see that? On the bits that, well, this one is pitted, that's why it's been rejected. By the time you try and get rid of all the pits, the valve's too thin. But I'll also show you, I'll leave that there. This is one of the ones that I said was bent. No need to go mad with the... You can see that clearly, look. But as you, even if it's if it's bent less than that, as you go to do this, you can feel it. But that one is clearly bent. So anyway, I thought I'd just show you that little process of how I cleaned up the valves, and it worked really well. Okay, thanks very much. That's interesting. Nice old tool, good quality tool. You know, great hands-on device, and it's nice to use these things, isn't it? Instead of them just sitting on somebody's shelf. What a fantastic piece of kit. It just does what it's supposed to do, without making a lot of noise as well, which is good. You can do it late at night, don't have to make a lot of racket. It's looking better, isn't it, all the time? Okay. Thanks a lot then. Well, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers then. Bye.